Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest Shepherd's Talk with Pastor Nick. And this week, I want to talk about the new book of the month, Taming the Fingers, Heavenly Wisdom for Social Media by Jeff Johnson. Now, if you use social media at all, and in 2024, that is most of us, if you've avoided it, congratulations, I'm very proud of you. But you've probably noticed that many people really struggle to figure out how to use it responsibly. I remember the early days of MySpace when people just shared their favorite song or a joke or something meaningless, and it was sort of a fun thing that people did from time to time for entertainment. However, today, social media plays a significant role in the everyday lives of people all around the world. I can say in my 18 years as a pastor that more often than not, when there have been conflicts between individuals in the church, when there have been marriage problems on some level, social media or text messaging is typically involved. I've seen it in my own ministry. I've seen it in other ministries. We've all seen it as a nation and in the highest offices of the land politically, and there have been more than a few congressional hearings about the effects and influence of social media in our culture. I think it's safe to say that social media isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, the majority of Americans now say that they depend on social media for their news, and the evidence of that is the declining rates of legacy news organizations, the low subscription rates, and the closing of major newspapers, several magazines now only having online versions. In the last 20 years, social media has caused a significant change to how the world communicates. Not too long ago, I came across an article about how people in their 20s no longer want to meet someone from the opposite sex in person to arrange a date or to exchange a phone number. The preference for many is now to meet online, so they have an opportunity to scour the internet and look at all their social media profiles, look at their pictures, see what they're into, do some Google searches to find out everything they can, and then maybe they'll agree to go out for the first time. In other words, they will know a lot about a person before they ever meet them face to face. Now, I can understand why that might be a desirable approach to a relationship for some people, especially women, but hopefully we can do an honest assessment and say that it's not a healthy way to interact in the long run. Well, now we're in a contentious election season in our country. I think we can all say there are very few issues that are not political. Most people have opinions about these issues, whether they know what they're talking about or not. I've always joked that whenever the Supreme Court of the United States drops a new decision, everyone all of a sudden becomes a constitutional expert. People are quick to run to Facebook or X or Instagram and start telling everyone what they know and how something is exactly what the founders had in mind or how it's so wildly constitutional. After all, they did a quick Google search and read an article on Wikipedia, which, if you don't know, Wikipedia is actually another form of social media. Well, as Christians, we need to think hard about how we use social media, what our intentions are, and how we approach it. So Jeff Johnson's little book is very helpful on this issue. I recommend it to anyone who uses social media, young people, adults, anyone who is on social media. This is a short book at 70 pages. It's small in size. It won't take you long to read it. It would be something good to grab after a Sunday morning worship service, read it after lunch before coming back for the evening service. You can probably finish it or be close to finishing it. Well, Pastor Johnson deals with taming our fingers, and he gives us important biblical principles to think about, and he frames those principles around 5 important questions. So I'll talk about each of those really quickly. First, he asks, am I controlled? And in this chapter, the issue is self-control. When should I be silent? When should I speak up? There are some helpful references to important biblical passages dealing with these issues. Texts like Proverbs 17:27, which says, he who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Or Proverbs 29:11, a fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. It's easy to see something and get angry and just start typing a response without self-control, when most of the time it's probably better to just stay silent. I'm not sure that in the history of social media, anyone has had their mind changed by a lengthy back and forth argument in the comments section, not to mention how much time is wasted. There's a funny meme that I've seen where someone is telling her husband, hey, it's time to go to bed. And he says, I'm sorry, honey, I'm busy right now. Someone is wrong on the internet. And he's feverishly typing out a response. We have the option, and we should exercise that option to just move on. We don't have to correct everything that we think is wrong. We need to exercise self-control. Secondly, he asks, am I calm? Pastor Johnson writes, what is our natural reflex reaction when someone unleashes their anger against us? It is to speak harshly back to that person with raised decibels. It is so easy to let someone's anger and harshness light our fuse and set off the fireworks. And so in this chapter, he deals with the pernicious sin of anger. And as Christians, we can get self-righteous and think that the attacks we receive from people on social media are a sure sign that we are really doing the work of the Lord and the world is just attacking us. In reality, it might be that we're just being a jerk. Proverbs 16:24 says, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. We're reminded that sometimes it's good and right to say hard things, but the way we say those things matters. The third question he asks is, am I careful? Here's a good line from the opening of the chapter. It seems that many people have embraced the mistaken notion that social media has given them a platform where they can be heard. The humbling reality, however, is that most of us do not have a stewardship from God to communicate the truth regarding any matter via social media. If you think you have such a stewardship, more than likely it is only an inflated view of your importance. Pastor Johnson then goes on to give some helpful reminders of how to communicate on issues that may not necessarily be our stewardship. He asks important questions like, what are the potential risks? Or what are the possible reactions? I love how he writes that social media can become the playground for a fool. It's an important consideration. And as Christians, we need to be careful with how we use these platforms. Fourth question is, am I compassionate? Social media has heightened the sense that most people almost have an obligation to respond to things that happen in the world. If there's a tragic event that was captured on video, or if something was said and it becomes a national news story, you can guarantee that there will be those who immediately support it, those who immediately condemn it. You can mix in the tone police and the condemners and the haters and the truth tellers and the trolls. Well, Pastor Johnson is clear that he's not promoting passivity when it comes to evil and injustice, but he makes an important distinction between true compassion from the righteous and false compassion from the wicked. He deals with the fact that true compassion is not really making a scene on social media, but it's very practical and hands-on, and it's typically done in private. The world doesn't need to know everything you're doing to show compassion. And when you insist on making a scene of it, your true motives are revealed. Fifthly, he asks, am I conscientious? Finally, would you ever walk up to someone and tell them to their face, you have been unfriended? Or if someone comes to talk to you, would you just ignore them and walk away? Would you just block them without a conversation? Now, of course, on social media, these things can be useful. It's highly unlikely that you will have a personal relationship with everyone you interact with on social media, and sometimes turning off their voice is necessary and useful. You don't have an obligation to respond to the criticism of those who are not part of your life in any meaningful way. But this chapter really deals with not only the matter and manner in which we communicate with others, but our intention behind those communications. Am I being fake or passive-aggressive? Am I hiding behind an electronic device, a screen, a keyboard, to write something I would never think to say to a person's face? Am I making sure what I'm writing is true, or am I in a rush to make the most witty comment, to trade the most cutting barb, or to simply make another person look bad? Well, Pastor Johnson also highlights some important considerations when it comes to dealing with our own sin on social media. The more public the sin, the more public the repentance needs to be. So that should inform us. Do I really want to post this on social media? Shame can be a helpful motivation to do the right thing. So there you have it. Taming the Fingers by Jeff Johnson. This is a great little book full of practical wisdom. And I think now is a better time than any for all of us to read and heed the biblical truth we have here. And hopefully we can have a healthier relationship with social media. So make sure you pick up a copy in our bookstore this coming Lord's Day. Our order is in. It's ready for you. See you next time.